Hey guys, how you all doing? Bioniclesaurus here, back with another dinosaur figure review, and in this video we are going to be taking a look at the Wild Safari Dinos Yutyrannus huali by Safari Limited, a great figure and one of my personal favorites in my whole collection. So, now that Dinosaur Island is going to be ending soon, in fact there's only one episode left at this time, reviews are going to be taking up the majority of my videos, so I decided to make a better, more formulated way of reviewing figures by a rating system from F to A. In this system, we will be taking a look at three fundamental attributes: detail, overall look, and scientific accuracy, each of which will have their own rating, amounting up to one final rating which will be decided at the end of the video. So without further ado, let's get started and take a look at this awesome figure. Starting off with the overall look, this figure looks quite good. It stands without its tail, so has a nice active pose. Pretty good detail and texturing all around. Its mouth is closed, so it's not exactly in a hunting or aggressive position, but personally, I much prefer this to the usual roaring pose that most theropods are put in these days. Well, really, they've always been put in it. It's very stereotypic. Yes, his eyes face somewhat forward, but somewhat to the side, so it gives him a unique amount of character without looking too anthropomorphized. His hands are in a neutral position, not really clawing at anything, but not tucked up against the body. A nice amount of feathering, to me anyway, and overall I must say this figure just looks very nice at first glance. However, it is not the most flashy. The colors are a bit on the dull side, and the pose, while active, is not extraordinarily active, and some people may prefer something that is a bit more dramatic. This figure truly shines in detail. While the paint is not perfect, and we'll get to that in a second, the sculpt is absolutely beautiful. The feather texturing, all the scale detailing, the claws, the teeth, the eyes, everything is remarkably detailed down to the finest, smallest little things, and I'm really quite impressed with Safari Limited, especially considering that usually their figures, especially in their Carnegie Collection line, have a relatively odd-looking, smooth texture. This is certainly a refreshing look, and I quite enjoy it. However, as I said, while the texturing is amazing and truly great to me, the paint job is not perfect. Now, the scaly bits are perfectly fine, however, as far as I can tell, they are not painted at all, but simply molded in a brown color. This may be a turnoff for some people who prefer a more naturalistic look and less of a plasticky look, which I think most of us really do, but then again, for Safari Limited, it still doesn't look half bad. Mine does have a bit of smudging on the teeth, at least on the left side of its mouth, not so much on the right. However, on the right side of its head, the nostril has a bit of smudging. It probably won't show up on camera, but it is there, and it is something to think about. And that is why, although I did order mine, so this is a bit hypocritical, I would recommend buying this guy in the store so you can look at a few individual figures and pick which one has the best paint apps. Really, where the paint looks the worst is where the feathers meets the scales, especially on the inside of this hand, the right hand. You can really see that the paint just, rather than coming to a nice end, kind of gets scattered and messy and doesn't look very great. I also noticed a few white smudges on the feet. Not exactly the finest paint job Safari Limited. Still though, they did a pretty good job, especially for Safari Limited standards, and I appreciate the look they were going for. Now for scientific accuracy. This will be the stage in which I get very critical. Not because this figure is bad, but simply because I'm a very scientific person, especially when it comes to dinosaurs. Whether it's paintings or figures or sculptures, I want them to truly represent a modern, scientifically accurate form of the animal. So without further ado, let's get into this. First off is the feathering. I quite like the feathering, although I may have preferred something with a feathered face and perhaps more feathers going along on the arms, maybe even primaries over the hands. Based on the fossils we have, this is probably the most accurate feathering that we will see on a Yutyrannus figure, simply stopping at the base of the skull and on the hands and feet. I would have appreciated a little gap in feathering around where the cloaca is, but unfortunately, they've completely neglected its cloaca. There's no sign of any opening or any exposed area under its tail. Still though, the feathering is nice, and really there's nothing bad to say about it. This was an early Cretaceous Tyrannosaurid. It probably very well had primitive and shaggy fur-like feathers, just like is shown on this toy. And I'd say they did a pretty good job. As for non-feathery parts, the scaly bits, I really have no problem. Both the feet and the hands look fine, the claws are a good length, and the arms are in a neutral position, with non-pronated hands. Gee, what a concept, huh, Schleich and Papo? I also appreciate that it is not in a tripod pose. It is great to see yet another Safari Limited figure standing without its tail. See guys, it's not that hard. You don't even need giant feet for it. The only place on this figure where I would critique its scientific accuracy is the head, which is a bit too skin-wrapped for my liking. While unlike some companies like Schleich, they did not, at the very least, have some kind of large scaly lining around any of the fenestras, there are still multiple visible indents in the skull, and for many people, including myself, this could be a bit of a turnoff. Now, overall, I can overlook it for the most part, but I'd be lying if I said it didn't annoy me at least a little. So, without further ado, let's get started on the overall appraisal of this figure. So, for overall look, I have to give this guy about an A-. While it is not the most active or dramatic pose, it is a very realistic one. I especially appreciate that it is non-tripodal and that its hands are not pronated. And the mouth being shut is such a wonderful difference, a fresh change from most other theropod figures. For detail, I give it about a B-. Now, the sculpt is absolutely lovely. I have nothing to complain about there, but the paint job, at least on mine, is rather sloppy in areas, and overall, it is far from perfect. Still, though, it's a hell of a lot better than a lot of other Safari Limited figures, especially ones from their Carnegie Collection line. And finally, we have scientific accuracy. This is where this figure really shines to me. Besides the slight skin wrapping on the head, everything else is absolutely perfect to me, and there's nothing to complain about when it comes to this figure's accuracy to the fossils that it is based upon. A+ all the way. Overall, I give this figure about an A-. While the paint job is somewhat sloppy on some parts of the body, and detailing and overall look is not perfect, it really shines in scientific accuracy, and overall, I absolutely love it. So that was it. My full review of the Wild Safari Dinos Yutyrannus huali by Safari Limited. I hope you enjoyed, and make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the Bioniclesaurus channel for more videos. I'll see you guys next time. Bioniclesaurus, signing out.